Hi guys, in this hair tutorial I'm going to be taking you through the basic cornrow techniques. So again, I will demonstrate this now and I'll do the complete line so you can actually see how we're going to do this. So I'll do this as slowly as I can so you guys can see the movement of my sections and how I'm adding the hair. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of my glaze here on my client's hair, or my model's hair, should I say. I'm so used to saying client because when you're in this, I've worked in the salon for a long time, so it just comes naturally to me to just say that. But that's fine. So some of you watching might actually be hairstylists in the salon, so you can relate to what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit more of the glaze and then just comb that into the hair as I did at the beginning. Okay, and I'm just going to section out the hair at the starting point here. Okay, I'll take that hair, divide it into 3. My fingers I positioned low in that pinch technique that I spoke about. Okay, and then I'll start to braid. So I'm going to grab that section of hair on my left hand side, bring it to the middle. So my fingers, there's a bit of tension in my fingers here as I take the hair and then bring it around. So you notice that I'm pressing and there's a slight pulling that I'm doing. So at this point, I'm going to take some hair from this section here and then actually bring it over to the middle section. So you can stop and pick up the hair and bring it to where you want to before you continue. So I'll pick up that hair and then I'll continue to braid. And then when I come to this side, I pick up a little bit of hair, push it to the middle section here, and then pick back up that middle section and then exchange it over to the left. And then I'll continue the process. Now, because my fingers are low, I can go in with my index finger and do the same thing. Okay, so I'll take my index finger, push hair to the middle section, and then bring it over, and then I can exchange that. Okay, so this is how you do your basic cornrow technique. The key thing is just to keep your fingers as low to the scalp as you can and creating that tension that allows you to have that nice finish on the hair. So as I continue to do this, I will be adding a little bit more of my edge control product on the hair to allow me to just control the hair and create a much more smoother finish on the hair. If you just put your hair down for me. Okay, so you can just take a small amount and just apply it where you need it. Okay, and then just continue to do that. So again, I'm just using my index finger to go through the sections and push the hair where I need it to be. Okay, so you can just continue to do that. So if you need to hold your fingers a little bit higher just so you can see exactly the movement that you're making, that's okay. But as you continue to learn how to do this method of styling, you want to work on that finger positioning, keeping them nice and low to the scalp. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish doing this here. I will turn her around in a moment so you can actually see how I'm proceeding there in the back. So again, we'll continue to apply our product. If you raise your head up a little bit, that's it. So whenever you're doing this, you just want to position your client or your model or whoever's hair you're styling in a position that works for you so you don't strain your shoulders. Because as hairstylists, sometimes we always hunch in our shoulders. And because of the tension that I'm actually applying here, I can always feel that if I've done this for a long time, like if I've got a whole day and I'm braiding constantly, I can feel that at the top of my shoulders if I'm not positioned the right way. So just make sure you position yourself the correct way and the person that you're styling in a way that's comfortable for them and for yourself as well. So I'm just continuing with the process. So as I get further down here, naturally, we're getting lower to the scalp. So sometimes you feel the need to pull the hair up towards where your fingers are. So you don't want to bring the hair to meet you where your fingers are positioned. You want to make sure that you follow the shape and the fall of the line that you're going in. Because if you pull the hair too high, if I stop from here and I start bringing that hair up to meet me where my fingers are, naturally you'll have a little bit of a drag, where instead of having that finish of the cornrow sitting right at the base of the nape, it will stop somewhere here, and then you have that little bit of the hair that's a little bit baggy there, or it can just pull on the person's hair and it can be quite uncomfortable for them as well. So you just want to maintain that tension that you started off with. So when you get to this point, because it almost feels like your hands are naturally kind of getting closer to your body because of how low we're going, it's very easy to want to relax your fingers. That's when you have the problem of seeing that area becoming baggy. So if you're doing this technique and you find that you've got a nice tension from the start, but when you get to this point, everything just sits a little bit more loose, you just need to be aware of how you're positioning your hands and how much looser you're making your hands in relation to the tension that you had from the beginning. So I'm just going to apply a little bit more glaze as I go. So you notice that I've put in a little bit more higher. So sometimes you can bring that a little bit higher just to create more smooth finish on your hair as you go. So I just continue that. So my elbows are constantly raised out and I'm just keeping that tension. So there's still a slight push forward, even with the positioning of my hands, even if as I get lower. But as I get lower as well, I start to intentionally pick up a smaller amount of hair that I'm adding to the middle. So it's slightly changed from the amount that I was adding here because I'm conscious that we have a little bit of hair left just to braid. But if I continue to add big sections, it might affect the positioning of the lines when I finish. So I need to add a little bit more less hair than I did from the beginning. So I just continue that same process, still the same movement with my fingers, index finger going in, pushing up hair to where I want it to the middle section and continuing with that braid. And I'm just conscious that I'm adding a smaller amount of hair just so that I can get a really nice finish right towards the nape area there. And I'm just going to put a little bit more glaze so we can just control the hair there. So you want to maintain that tension throughout as you get lower to the end of the section, but you notice that my hand positioning has not changed. And even though I don't have any more hair left to add here, I'm just going to maintain this positioning so I can braid this out a little bit more. This affords me to get a really nice tight finish. And then we just braid this out all the way through to the ends of the hair. You can apply a little bit of moisturizing cream to get a little bit more smoother finish, or you can put a little bit of your glaze as well just to tighten everything nicely so you get a nice finish in the hair. So we just continue with this process. Okay, so I will demonstrate this one more time in another line for you guys in a little bit more slower again so you can see how we created that, but you get that nice finish. Everything is nice and tight and we have control of the root area there because of the products that we actually used in the hair. So just going to turn her around and then I'm going to go ahead and do another line for you. So again, with my sectioning, I'm keeping that in mind that we want to keep this narrow the further down we go, and I'm aiming to put in 4 lines. So when you do this, just take your time. You don't have to do a lot of lines, just keep it a minimum amount of lines and then just get that practice in. So if I just turn her around and I'll show us again what we have here through the back. So my section, if I just tighten the hold, you can see that it's slightly narrow around here. That's what you want to aim for. Once you start to get to just past the crown areas, get lower down to the back here, that's when I'll start to narrow that in again. All right, if I just turn you around again, Summer, thank you. I'm just going to apply my products as I did before. A little bit of the moisturizing cream on the ends and then working that edge control around the perimeter of the section here. And then that hair will be ready for us to start the process of doing the cornrow. So I'll just take a little bit of my cream in my fingers here and I'm just gently applying that through the hair. Only again if the hair needs it. If it's a little bit dry, then you can do that. So again, I've got the hair sectioned out in 3 sections and notice my hand and finger positioning. My elbows are out and I'm trying my best to keep my fingers as low to the scalp as I can. So with your index finger, you're going to grab that hair and bring it over to the middle, and take that hair on the right hand side, bring it over to the middle. And at this point I'm going to repeat this process again just to make sure that that feels nice and secure. Okay, once it feels secure at the starting point here, that's when I can pick up a small amount of hair, bring it over to the middle section here, and then we'll braid. I pick up a small amount of hair, and then just make sure when you pick up the hair, just try to keep your sections very clean so you're not having so much hair tangling into each other. So I section out that hair, make sure it's nice and clean, and I'll bring it over to the middle section, and then I'll exchange that middle section with my right hand section. And then I'm literally just going to continue this process as I did before and maintaining that tight tension and hold on the hair. okay? So you're aiming to eventually get to a stage where you can get that nice, smooth, tight finish. Everything is nice and clean. Use your products to help you with the process of achieving that nice, clean finish on your cornrow, and then just get that nice, tight finish on the hair as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue with that braid and just put in these last 2 lines here. And then when I finish, we're going to jump over to the left-hand side where I'll demonstrate how to play around with your sectioning technique using the same method that I've already shown you in terms of hand positioning, product use. It doesn't change. It's just more how you place your lines when you do that, okay? Okay, so we've completed this side with our basic cornrow. We're going to go ahead and style the other side, as I mentioned before. With this side, I just want to focus on showing you guys how you can play around with your sectioning technique. I'm going to be creating more of a triangular sectioning technique, so the cornrow looks a little bit more styled. So this usually creates more of a softer starting point because we're starting very thin and narrow and then proceeding to creating more like a wider finish on the line. So if you just look at the front there, I just went in, so you kind of pick a point of start. So if I start from this point, it means every time I need to section the hair, I'll come back to this starting point so that I can maintain that even finish with the triangular sectioning that I'm aiming to do here. So again, it starts off narrow here, it goes wider towards the middle, and then as I get lower to the nape, I will maintain that narrow finish, as I mentioned on the other side, how the head naturally goes in, okay? So I'm just going to do this section here, and I will turn some around so you guys are able to see the section. The line is still coming in quite narrow, even though at the point or start at the front is a little bit more very triangular in the sectioning that we went for. And the application of the product is still the same thing. I'm still going to apply that edge control, the moisturizing cream, and my hand positioning is still going to be the same, keeping it nice and low. The only thing that I'll mention here is because the section is starting off very narrow, as you can see here, the amount of hair that I start with is going to be a very small amount to maintain that narrow finish. So it can feel a little bit fiddly because you're working with a very small amount of hair just to create that finish that we want to see in there. So I'm just going to apply my edge control on the hair at the root area there, just like I did with the other sections on the right hand side here. And that's going to be applied all the way through down to the nape area. And if the hair needs a little bit of moisture, then I'm going to apply my moisturizing cream as I did before on the other section, okay? Now, because we've went for a triangular sectioning technique because of the way that we're trying to create more of a style to the braid that I'm about to do, it means that when you start at the starting point here, you need to pick up a small amount of hair. Just as the section is narrow and we've got a very thin starting point, it means that I'm going to literally take a small amount of hair, as you can see here, and this will be sectioned into 3. So this can become a little bit fiddly because of the amount of hair that you're actually trying to braid at the time. But it's still the same hand positioning, keeping your fingers nice and low to the scalp. Still the same movement. So I'm actually going to start the braiding. I'm exchanging the right section to the middle and the left to the middle. So I'm just going to braid this until it feels secure. When I start to add hair and pick up the hair, the size of this section here, that's roughly the amount of hair that I'm picking up as I'm adding the hair. As I get further down, so as I get about a third away from the starting point here, my section is going to get a little bit more wider. So the wider the section gets, the more hair I'm likely going to add into that section, okay? So we'll just start to pick up hair and adding that hair. Try to maintain that tension as we did in the other cornrows that are demonstrated on the right hand side here. And just take your time and make sure that you get that really nice narrow starting point going through the hair. Summer, if I just get you to put your hair down for me slightly, thank you. Okay, we just continue with that process. If you need to apply a little bit of your edge control, then you're going to do that. But the key thing is just starting that section there very narrow. As you can see, we get that really nice triangular sectioning point at the start there. And I'll just continue to maintain that tension in my fingers as I continue to do this cornrow here. So this was the point where I always go back to when I need to do my sectioning technique. So I'll start from here, and then just in your mind, you need to kind of visualize like a triangular shape. That will naturally help to, you know, direct your hands as you're doing this section. So starting from here, and then I'll just angle this out, and that's still going to give me that triangular sectioning similar to what we have here. So that'll be the next line, and then the next line I'll come through from here, and then I'll do that line is my last line, and we've got the third line. So we get that kind of like triangular sectioning that we have, and this is our focal point where we start from with every sectioning technique. So I'm just going to go ahead and section this out, and then I'll continue with my braiding, and I will still apply the product on the base, and then we'll just continue that process. Okay. Okay, so that's our completed look with the cornrow technique. As you can see, on this side, we focused on creating more like a basic cornrow styling, just going straight back. And I demonstrated for you guys how to do a slight triangular sectioning technique so that the style can look a little bit more styled. And I went ahead and I laid her hair at the front there where we mentioned that she had thinning from over time, where she kept her hair tied up in a bun and using gel. So we just utilized that area and make it look a little bit more styled. So then we just transition that into more like styling the baby hairs. So that's what we did there. So what I'm going to go ahead and is to just do the finish on here. So this is a method you can actually use whenever you do any of your cornrowing, especially if the person's going to wear the hair out. We finish that with the foam or the mousse, as I mentioned before, is one of our products. So this is literally just going to be applied over the cornrows, okay? So this is the amount that I'm going to apply here, and I'm just going to lightly apply that through the cornrows from the front all the way through to the back, and I will be tying this down with my do-rag. I'll smooth that through towards the end. I'll turn her around in a moment so you can see the back. I'm being mindful of the edges that I've already styled, the baby hairs that I've already laid there, or created, or the baby hairs I have created, should I say. So this will go in here, and I'm going to apply the do-rag on top. But before that, I just want to show you in the back. So we have that mousse going through all the way through to the back as well. So if I just turn you around, thank you. Now I'm just going to place the do-rag, which is one of these here, okay? You can get this from online or any shop, okay? It doesn't have to be super tight, but I'm just pulling it towards the back there. If I just turn you just to the side there, I'm just pulling on it just here at the back so that it just tightens that. And then I'll just tie that, okay? I just need to make sure that I cover a little bit more around the front there. Okay, just checking to make sure I have parts of the front covered, okay. And then I'll just lightly tie this down, okay. So once we've done that, if you're in the salon, because it tends to be very busy in the salon, so you might not have time, you might want to utilize that time by just putting the client under the hood dryer for about 5 minutes, and that should be okay. Even like 2 minutes and it's okay, and on like a medium high heat. You don't want it to be too cool because this process is just very quick. But the quickest way to do this is just to cover the hair, and then just using your dryer, you're just going to switch it on medium, and you're going to do the airflow on maximum. You can either do this with the attachment applied to the dryer, which is the attachment that comes with the dryer, and I'm just going to blast this over the dryer. So I'll just do it for like a minute. All we want to do is just to dry that foam into the hair a little bit more, and then we do the taking off of the hair. So I'm just going to quickly do that now. Okay, so once that's set, we're just going to remove that. Okay, so what this does is the mousse helps to just give you that nice finish. It does add a little bit of shine to the hair. If you just tilt your head down just slightly, it just helps to lay down any small flyaways that you don't want to see in the hair. So it's a good way to really finish your braid or your cornrow. So we use this method both for cornrow with extension or without extension, like we did here on Summer's hair. And the last thing we might do is you might want to put a little bit of oil on the scalp if you want to do that, or you can spray the hair with a finishing spray. I'm actually going to use my Charlotte Mensa Macchetti oil finishing mist, just to give the hair a little bit more of a defined shine in the hair. And that will be the finish of the style that we've created here. So it just gives us a nice shine, and this product smells absolutely amazing. So it just gives us a shine and a nice smell to the hair as well. And that is pretty much how you do your basic cornrow styling technique. And this method can be used for any hair textures, regardless of whether it's Afro hair texture, Caucasian hair, or Asian hair textures as well. It's just remembering the principles of how to achieve the perfect braid, or cornrow should I say, is about your hand placement, keeping those fingers nice and low, utilizing your products to help you to maintain that smooth finish that we want to see in the hair as well, and then just giving it a nice finish by applying the mousse and then a finishing spray if that's what you want to use in the hair as well. So that's our style finished on our model Summer. I hope you guys like it.